I have a son, and God knows how much I adore him. The expression j'adore, it's invented in relation to how mother feels about her son. And the character, that female movie star, South African, that she's playing, Charlize Theron, she's playing the character. I think we all know what character she is playing in female version. It's all about golden expression and so on and so on. In substance, it's not about reference to the yellow hair. It is reference to love, to someone being adored by a mother. Yes, by a mother. Because only a mother can say such words with enormous size and actually meaning it. Everything else comes after. Can you hear me here well, girls? Girls, everything else comes after. The first love that any man experiences is love by and from his mother, as big as the entire universe. Unreplaceable, guaranteed, and stamped. That is the love you talk about in that sequence when you spell out that word and actually mean it. J'adore. Now, since I explained after what kind of baby I am already sold to, mothers, let's focus for the rest of the story. What means motherly energy versus what means fatherly or man and a woman protocol. What means protocol woman and what means protocol man. You say in protocol woman, you open the gate of the universe with that feeling you create versus other people in the most sincere way, in which way the other parent organically does not create it. I have a son which I adore. And I'm very sure the intensity of love very often is associated to a person rather than to a character. I mean, you have different women, different males and different females. Some of the males are much more emotional and much more devoted than some females. But I'm talking here about some kind of universal roles, because on these levels, which we call philosophy, we don't speak of personal as much as we speak about universal forces. And I continue to be increasingly annoyed by the fact that not enough people are engaged on higher levels of philosophical thinking. Most of them are completely wasted into street level politics, and it is increasingly annoying to find humans wasted so much into some kind of end perspective and not being present where they are supposed, by the matter of mental duty, I would argue, to actually be present even as a matter of defense protocol. Because defense protocol starts on the mental level before it gets to any physical level. And that is the reason why for quite some time I call my philosophy planetary defense protocol. And then it is all philosophical, it is all mental. But it is annoying, I'm going to say, how little people are sitting here with me on planetary defense protocol, but rather wasted on their national defense protocol. And I just have problem to understand, now that I have explained to you how far our notions by which all of us live are actually universal, why there are not more people sitting with me on these planetary levels. I just can't understand why people are so much sold out to national perspective when it comes to defense protocol. When we have developed that much to have capacity to understand the defense protocol on Earth should be equally planetary before we reach to speak like little kids about national defense protocol. We need to talk about planetary defense protocol. Why not enough intellectuals and not enough high caliber people are not engaged into explaining and discussing planetary defense protocol? And what is the politics that would be emerging out of it? I bet you would be wasted less for a day into meddling endlessly about your international issues. I bet you would be ringing different bells, a bit of a bigger size bells. Yes, a bigger size bells. And you would be speaking planetary defense protocol, not planetary opening the gates protocol, as Paul Voice of Australia is all about opening the gates, planetary gates protocol. No, I'm talking about actually planetary defense protocol, because it is in question our house, and house is very much personal event. I have spent it. I spend enough time, I assume, to explain or to define our house in planetary terms, and why it is so much important for us to defend it. And then I transcend it to planetary level. Well, because in substance, if you really are serious about defense protocol in 21st century, there is going to be planetary level. No, I can't understand why there are not enough people sitting with me on that level. I understand politics is also messed up. But I think it is much more important that we introduce each other to ourselves, to each other, before we continue this conversation. So again, I have to point out a couple of issues that will need to be fundamentally clarified today, fundamentally sealed in this kind of discussion, which is, I'm going to repeat again, planetary defense protocol, basically, respectful to each of the identities, cultural, national identities, with light inclination to propose improvement in a thorough discussion, analyzing the reasons why such activity should be proposed. I'm stunned by the amount of not recognition of my work, and I have to notice that main reason for me continuing not to be recognized on the planetary level is Western society that continue to recklessly ignore my existence and my work while trying to completely translate it into what they are doing on the west side. And that is why we have to go deeper in that entire situation, and to understand why Western mainstream civilization is not recognizing my identity and my work, while continue to bring very serious and substantial, I'm going to also argue, a discussion about most important issues on the planet. Why I continue to be a person that everyone knows about, but yet not admit it, like some kind of secret person. I mean, it makes you to think what kind of planet this is, and why people accept to live on this kind of planet. Is it not going to make them, should it not make them by now rather unsecure, less secure about on what kind of planet they live? But I'm still going. I'm still going to insist on certain on clarifications of the most significant nature, because that is my fight. My fight is happening on the level of clarifying the notions and defeating the confusion that someone planted on the planet on the highest of the levels, where it is our mind and where it is our reason. And I argue that always, in any time, initially any defense protocol would be on the levels, first of all, of intelligence, and intelligence should be understood, therefore, as far as discussing the comprehension of the notions and the construction of the reason, configuration of the reason by which we live. You might argue it's hard work, but defending a planet should never be underestimated either. I'm going to ask again. Probably that's the reason why that many cultures feel afraid to recognize my work, because it is going too high, and they would be afraid not to be dismantled their own cultural configuration upon which they exist, bluntly unaware that there would be most probably the source of all of their problems, the obsoleteness of their mental cultural configuration. And of course, one need to go step by step, aspect by aspect, to understand what we're talking about. So I'm going to start with the highest levels, where the main misconceptions continue to rule our planet. And that would be therefore, first and foremost, being accepted on the planet, polarization to good and evil, to good and bad, to God and devil. In substance, it has been proven many, many times that what kind of outcome you're going to get out of a human raised from a child would be, of course, in what kind of family a child will be raised, and what would be the circumstances of raising a child. And the outcome would be different depending, is it a person going to end up in defense mode, constantly defending itself and ending to be aggressive, and even losing its healthy approach to life and going deeper and deeper into negative zone, or is going to be blessed with born in positive environment with all of the positive impulses around the person and emerging into a positive character. So therefore, these are not absolute notions on some kind of universal levels. These are rather notions that we can say are man-made notions, because are happening as a result of human engagement. They don't exist as absolute. Good or bad is rather, you would recognize in our nature, rather as an anger and happiness. And this is not something you can talk about as a permanent. Neither anger is permanent, neither happiness is permanent. These are just mental states into which we find ourselves occasionally, or most of the time. You would agree we exist in some kind of neutral state. Neutral, which means we have a reason to feel emotionally plus or minus because of certain ignition, because of certain affection that would happen in a consequence. Otherwise, we exist in some kind of normal, rather emotional mental state. Given, of course, the main parameters of our emotional configuration, which is typical, obviously, for our life here on Earth, which where I'm going to recognize the second event that will need to be noticed as typical for our existence here and matter of further prejudices, and that is therefore the way how men and women and accordingly male and female energy have been understood. In that respect, as where we are today, I would rather notice that godly energy is completely wasted on side of woman, and if you have chosen to call it devil, then devil energy would be completely wasted. Whereas men, when it comes to many aspects, first of all, how far a woman get emotionally wasted within the creation of family, either by her natural instinct as a mother or her natural instinct of being neat, clean, and organized, which feelings or and predisposition or sentiment or mental configuration versus the one of a man would be certainly looking like a godly touch or godly energy. I'm just playing with the notions here that have been used as that far established, as so much materialized, as we are going to talk about certain people sitting on the out there in the sky as it is God and as it is devil. People are just going that far to actually materialize these people as actual physical existing people. I just want to explain what in substance is happening, that we talk about certain configuration of our energetic mental existence that deliver this kind of effect. Either it is as how many kids deliver the presence of their mother, caring, positive, smiling, a beautiful female energy as a godly presence. And that is what we are talking about here. We are talking about the energetic configuration that each of us project within certain life conditions and life situations. To be a mother and to look after a family and after a house has been underestimated from position of some kind of a religious institutional powers that continue how they dare to continue to think that they are the ones that have first say on this earth about whatever they're sitting out there in their male, sterile, male, not having a family format, and how and as a proof how far someone can laugh and basically ruga would be our expression, mock the humanity right there. When it comes to the most obvious events, the most obvious features, the most obvious manifestations of being ourselves. Someone can stand today still in 21st century and mock you with your right directly in your brain, in your mind, in your reason, in your intelligence, in what is the most obvious event. Someone stands out there and mock you directly in the center of your brain shell. You know, when these notions are not being properly recognized, then anyone is losing. Then humanity is losing. If humanity does not recognize itself, its own nature, and how it should be managing its own protocol, then the one that's going to lose it is going to be humanity. And today it is evident that humanity is losing it. Families are further going into devastation. Even identities are today being under attack. Either our sons are being lured into homosexualism. Very easy today has become to attach certain stigma to boys or to girls. They have become very vulnerable. That is all further weakening our protocol human. this civilization altogether, it's instead of straightening, it's losing. It's getting more and more loose. We are not doing correctly what we should be doing. We are not intelligent enough, although there is enough confirmation that we have reached stage of intelligent beings. As a protocol, we are not yet intelligent. As a civilization, we are not yet intelligent. Although we all depend on each other, we continue to stab each other, we continue to mock each other, we continue to laugh at each other's weaknesses, as it is not going to hit us in a consequence sooner or later. If we are on one same vessel, when something goes wrong on any part of it, the stress will be felt everywhere else sooner or later. Is the nature of what means to be on one same vessel. Many continue to be much more engaged in thinking how they are going to live it, rather than how are going to prevent to get broken. Because if you don't be bothered with looking after something, how many vessels you would need in order to feel safe? At some point of time, you will need to turn your back and stop the hole getting bigger and bigger, made out of misconceptions, in this case scenario, Vatican itself. And maybe at this point we should ask Elon Musk what he is running from Vatican or from a woman. Well, we have to know. It cost us that much to I have said it cost us, because technically it cost each of us, that much to devote money to certain programs of thinking about inhabiting other planets. It's an enormous project. We have not even properly inhabited this one. Like we are some kind of bees that we are going to fly from a planet to a planet like they are the flowers or something. Maybe it's time to ask Elon Musk and likes what they are running from. Are they running from Vatican or they are running from a woman? Well, it will need to be answered, that question, sooner or later. So let's answer it today rather than tomorrow. Are they running away from a woman or from Vatican? Well, it looks to me they are running rather away from a woman than from Vatican. I don't think they are running away from Vatican. You don't get that impression. I mean, they all went out there on their knees to Vatican. A woman is on a roller coaster like Miss Universe or something. So much about godly divinity of godly energy on earth. They're running away from it. Maybe we should just let them without the money. A spiritual lifting and flying should be just good enough for such advanced beings. Would you not say, Artians? We just release them from the duty of being humans of Earth, so they can fly freely wherever they want. Americans, how are you? So far? Feeling good? Third aspect that will need to be noticed as earning this kind of urgency to be discussed on these levels, on the top of the levels of the notions, philosophical and conceptual notions we need to clarify in 21st century, like normal intelligent human beings, would be the concept of black and white, which I have impression have landed far too strongly in some kind of personal level of comparison, and getting even a strongly political dimension in terms of providing to some kind of recognized as a white population some kind of godly presence, and to black population some kind of devil presence. Although when it comes to civilizational development, very often you get similar outcome. The fact is that these energies, that these notions are being played on the planet way too much out of context, out of real context of how life on this earth is happening, and it will need to be noticed as event that from being conceptual, philosophical, becomes very much physical. That is material. Now, how far we can accept that happening without intervening with our sense of logic and presence on this earth, and impose our perspective of how these notions can land on this earth, and where illusion must stop and be replaced with reality. To quite an extent, I have to notice that metaphysical go substantially into physical, actually, when you speak about white and black. White is cleaner, neater, and more organized as a white race. Black race continue to be much more troubled on lower scale of not just economic development, but some kind of cultural development as well. Very much drawn within its own temper-driven and much more higher energy and much more intense energies populated bodies, taken away bodies that appear to have a problem to deal with their higher potency and higher energetic configuration, and end up to be black and step away from being declared devilish or negative. However, to the extent that I myself have hit with my head into the wall, into white wall, noticing first and foremost a substantial amount of stupidity abiding there. Second, enormous amount of mental confusion and mental instability, and considerable amount of mental illness. Thirdly, some kind of gender confusion, especially when it comes to males. It's questioning today, to great an extent, my inclination towards clean, neat, organized, and somehow logically presumed white. Logically presumed white. My notion of logically presumed white, it is going from clean, neat, organized, and then I reach the point of white. Well, in substance, how white happen on this planet is other way around. First, it is mentally confused, either stupid or crazy. I mean, it's completely kind of fail platform, like King Lear protocol. We have some kind of reduced male libido, reduced male energy, wasted into oblivion. And white in that case now is happening as handicapped, mentally unstable, troubled person, and continue to be defensive to the rest of their lives, handicapped and asking for some kind of assistance and some kind of social care, and wasted completely in social care for the rest of their lives. The real white on this planet, which is physical white, is handicapped, malfunctioning, and mentally dysfunctional. My white, which is philosophical, is clean and neat, organized, strongly configured, mentally strong, and then it's white because it's clean, neat, and organized. It's hypothetically, philosophically white. It is therefore this kind of creativity, if we would be speaking now of higher levels of this kind of universal configuration, then my white would be rather as a Highlander, as a Vikings, as some kind of power, as some kind of materialized power of a human mind, and what human undoubtedly represents and how we understand human today in its abbreviation format. Now, that is metaphysical. That is metaphysical. Here, white is strong, powerful, clean and neat and organized, which means completely successful. And human is happening. In reality, the white in the way how it's happening in Europe is trouble, sick, and dysfunctional. Now that is one aspect of being of that entire white and black protocol. And you see how far these matters are rather metaphysical before they happen to be physical. And when they happen to be physical, then we don't end up speaking about colors anymore of the skin. We speak about color of our mind, or we speak about character, which means that skin color in terms of black and white on the planet is irrelevant. What is relevant is the strength of our character and the strength of our capacity to project human and humanity on one planet as one protocol. My white is, I'm going to conclude without confusing you further. My definition of white is clean, neat, and organized, and that means configurated, strong, mentally strong, strongly mentally configurated. Righteous because it is intelligent, and accordingly righteous because it's not being wasted into some kind of gossip level of good and bad. But it is rather scientific. And when you are scientific on these matters, then you notice normality. And you notice humanity living on one planet. And reason begins with the light of the energy of the sun, which is metaphysical trajectory, sustaining or withholding all of the colors, including the black and the white. And at that moment, you understand everything is relative, especially the colors. And what is much more absolute is our configuration, our mental configuration of our strength as a characters and our trajectory, our mental capacity to project our strength and our character in adequately correct ways. As you have multi-level mental trajectory here, and that is what this realm is, equal as the sun ray. It's multi-level mental trajectory. And at that point, you are God and the servant in the same time, the recipient, the provider and the recipient in the same time. That is what we are. We are the providers of our mental configuration and the recipient of it. And that's when it comes, God is with us. Well, because we land in the specificness of the circumstances. But each time you can just mentally rise up. It's a matter of a second. You imagine the planetary levels of consciousness. You can do that in the second. And God, you are. In the context, of course. In the context. I mean, you can fly as much as you can. In the context. And as it is about mental configuration, what is black and white? A political question. Yeah, we can speak now politics. Yes, as well. Since I explained white properly, let's start with the problems. Who is going to pay for it? Well, I'm not joking. Who is going to pay for it? In other words, Britannia, if I'm going to buy a farm, am I not going to ask what kind of farm I'm buying? And you, would you not ask who is the buyer? I think we should ask these questions. First,